Hi, welcome to DOL Dignity of Labor KTP series, Know the Profession. And today we have Medha with us, the management consultant at Big Four. Hi, Medha.
Hello.
Hi, welcome to DOL.
Thank you for having
Thanks a
me.
lot for giving your valuable time in your busy schedule. Okay, just a quick start. Can you give us a brief introduction? How did you land into the management consulting profession?
Sure. So I have done my engineering from VJTI Mumbai, and I joined L&T as a graduate engineer trainee after that as a campus hire. And a part of my job was involved around planning and scheduling projects, and a lot around management of an end-to-end engineering procurement fabrication sort of a project. So that's where I understood that there is some potential here for me to upgrade my skills and focus more on management rather than the technical side of things. Given that on the technical side, I did have some knowledge that came from the core engineering subjects. But to groom myself up, I thought MBA would be a good option, and that's where I went, where I gave CAT and I reached IIM. And 2 years post that, I took the job at Deloitte as a management consultant, and that's how I landed here.
Nice. So, like, we all know that Big Four is one of the dream professions for management consultants to land. So, is this by chance or is it by choice? Because campus recruitment is a puzzle.
It's somewhere in between, by
Okay.
chance as well as by choice. It so happened that Deloitte seemed to be one of the first few companies that came over. It was also somewhere my area of interest. Consulting was definitely one of my area of interest, but probably not the area that I fully wanted to focus on.
Okay.
But definitely it was a good middle ground to select and go ahead.
So, how was the recruitment process for the same?
Yeah, so Deloitte generally, so at IIMK, Deloitte is generally one of the first few companies from consulting that comes over. Uh, so I'll just split my answer to for the internship as well as for the final placement process.
Sure.
So if I focus on the internship process, they first have this a very big discussion round wherein it's not evaluative. They just give an idea of what to expect in the interview process. People can openly reach out to them in that call and get any questions answered. They also have a mock case to give you an idea of what the interview will have for you. And so it's a group case solving sort of a scenario, but again, it's not evaluative. Post that, they give you contacts of a few people that they call buddies. You can reach out to them. It's not a single tagging to a particular buddy,
Okay.
but they'll just give you generic people whom you can reach out to, and you can get to know how Deloitte works, the internal everything, like
The work culture,
the work
all those
culture,
things,
everything. Yeah.
all the queries.
Exactly. And then starts your first, and now, so this was during the internship. During the final placement, these two steps are usually not there. It just starts off with the initial shortlist that comes in. Once you are shortlisted, you are taken for the first round, which is the guesstimate round, wherein basically you're supposed to, you'll be given a question wherein you're supposed to estimate the, probably the size or the opportunity based on whatever the case is. The second round is more of a case round, wherein mostly the questions will be similar to what kind of areas Deloitte works in, what kind of problems Deloitte deals with, but definitely a very eased down version of all those.
Okay.
And the third and the final round is more of a personality fit round with with the senior managers, wherein they check whether you're a good fit or whether the company is a good fit for you, and that's how it
Role and fit mismatch.
is. Yes.
Okay, nice. That was a cool. But we all know that B-school placements are not so easy, and it's like a
Yeah.
puzzle, and we never know where we solve it.
Definitely.
So what exactly a management consultant do?
Okay. So basically, management consulting is all about looking at a particular industry, looking at a client operating in that industry from a lens of somebody who can provide an input on how this client or this entity that's operating in that industry can do better.
Okay.
Now, as a management consulting, you will have exposure to multiple industries. You can get examples from a different industry and apply it somewhere else if it holds. So that is the kind of view you will have on people. And I mean, basically, you will have to recommend how they can improve their processes. What strategy should they start to in order to probably increase their top line or reduce costs? So all in all, you're just sitting and advising someone on how they should operate.
So there is this myth in social media that consultants are the one who cut down the cost by and the resulting jobs going. Is it really so true? Because like we don't see so many cost optimization on workforce, right? Or is
Yeah. I mean, of course, that is one option, but from what the projects I have worked on, from the people I've spoken to, that's like the last resort.
Okay.
You will look at every other possible area where you can cut down costs, And then if you think there's nothing significant, probably that would be. But again, it's a very big decision to make, which we usually try to hold off from suggesting clients unless it's a decision that they're already inclined towards and they've already hinted us that yes, they are open to that kind of a decision. But yeah, like based on the projects I have seen where cost optimization is a focus, we try to just avoid reduction in the number of people.
Okay. So, a fresh MBA out of college, would you have a chance to select a specific industry, or you would be given to explore and then decide upon where you are comfortable?
Ideally, you would be given a chance to explore everything, but I'm assuming you're fresh out of college, even you don't know what
Correct.
industry holds. So there can be a chance that probably, let's say you got into an industry like healthcare, you really liked what you did, you wanted to explore more there, you can just go ahead and continue there. Otherwise, I mean, again, in the consulting firm specifically, it depends a lot on your network as well. If you've made those contacts, if you've got a good network that will give you the exposure, definitely well and good for you. You can jump between industries and projects. But yeah, I mean, the option does lie there. It's not that you're just simply thrown into some industry.
Understand. So, how does your day starts and day ends? What is the usual schedule? You'll be having more meetings, or what does that go?
Got it. Okay, so Deloitte USI basically works with clients who are based out of US. So all our calls with the client or with our counterparts in US are scheduled towards the end of the day. That's basically like our end of the day call. Once we're done with that, probably you can say you can call off the day.
Okay.
And our internal calls where we have to probably sit, brainstorm or have working sessions are during our day. So again, depends on the kind of project you are on. If there are some projects which are super stressful, they have a very short period of time in which you have to deliver a lot. Whereas on the other hand, there are also projects which are long term. They've been going for more than 2 to 3 years. So you do have some leeway of, pushing things here and there. So I've been on both kind of projects. So from my experience on the short term stressful projects, usually could start as early as 9:30 in the morning and could go as late as 11:30 in the night.
Okay.
But so no work-life balance there. But on a longer-term project, since things can move a little slow, there is some leeway, some bandwidth here and there. So the work-life balance is pretty managed there. So currently, like my day starts at 11. It usually on majority days will end by 9, but on probably worse days it can go up till 11.
Yeah, fair. So, like as you have this kind of both short-term projects and long-term engagements. So, what are the prime decisions or responsibilities as you as a consultant would have? Like, do you have a team to handle, or is it more of an individual contributor kind of a role?
Got it. So currently, it's probably a good mix of both. So if you're just fresh out of college, your expectation would be just to perform as an individual contributor, wherein you will be asked to assess or own some areas related to the project.
Okay.
Probably also make recommendations based on the data or the processes that you're looking at. Provide your recommendations to your seniors. They will look at its feasibility, all of those things. As you grow into the role, you will be expected to manage people as well as be an individual contributor. So it's a good mix of both. You get a good exposure at being able to manage people also. So currently my role is a mixture of both.
Okay. So, and you would also get chance to face clients on Zooms and things, because when you work in different geography clients. So is it so easy that understanding a new sector that you're very new, and going into the stage where you suggest something, or do you need to prepare more of understanding the industry knowledge, and then how does that go?
I think it's very rightly put by you. It's the second part, wherein if you're brand new to that industry, or maybe even if you're not new to an industry, you're new to an area.
Okay.
So you need to spend more time to ensure that you know that area inside out very well, because whom you're dealing with is someone who's been in that area for more than 20 years, 2 decades. So
equals to the age of ours.
Exactly. So to be able to recommend them with some confidence, to be able to justify whatever you're saying, you need to obviously be backed by a good amount of data. So that is something you need to learn on the job, and be very quick and agile with it as well. You won't get a long time to like I have 1 week, I'll spend one whole week in just understanding one part of the process. I don't think that kind of leeway will be there. Okay. But yeah,
that's what management consulting life is about. And generally, like we happen to see so many quotes that or memes we'll say, like a fresh out of an MBA will understand about the client, about the company, about the person you're interacting with, about the sector you're dealing with. All this in just one single slide.
I mean, that is a little exaggerated, but yeah, there are all of these elements that you need to be able to convey, and I think the slide is probably the best way of communicating it.
Okay. So when it comes to those kind of skills, like what is that mandatory skills that if you don't have these, you will not be a right fit for consulting.
Yeah, so I think my first focus would be on the ability to communicate effectively, because you need to be able to communicate in the most easiest fashion to your client what they should do. Like the more you make it complicated, the lesser they will have confidence in your decisions.
Yeah.
So communication is the by far the most important skill, and then a subsidiary of the communication would be the ability to put it on a slide so that they can look at it during their time. And because the impact, the value that you bring should be communicated to them. That's how they will get confidence in your decisions.
Yeah.
So I think those are by far the.
And so when you say these skills, so out of these, how many do you think are already imbibed by the B school culture we have, or do you need any other subjects that you should learn before you join from a B school?
Okay. So I would say some prerequisite that would be needed is just in terms of probably conceptual things, more specific to the industry that you're going to be dealing with. But these schools really do a good job in at least imbibing the skill of communication, because as you know, MBA is all about talking, about presenting. So
team collaboration.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and all throughout your MBA, you've done presentations, you've worked with teams. So these are some really good skills that these schools will provide you with in your journey to becoming a management consultant. But in terms of the other side, that's where the technical skills come in. I think the strategy related part of it is something that you might have to add in some extra efforts. I mean, these schools do it very well. They have very
All the case
good
studies and
subjects.
all those,
Yes,
yeah.
case studies, all of those are very much there. But probably in terms of any specific tool that's required on your current project as a management consultant for a client, that is something which is going to be very specific to the client as well.
Correct.
So really can't expect these schools to provide that kind of an exposure.
Okay. So like when you're suggesting, so what are the kinds of projects that you'll get? Like generally we see MBBs does only advice oriented or implementation oriented. So do every company has their own sector being captured, or how does that go?
As far as I understand, they all have their own areas
Yes.
of operating.
Yeah.
Deloitte operates in all three, like advice, implementation, as well as operate. So we have a good mix of all kinds of projects wherein you just sit and give a strategy to someone, you implement it, and then you also bring in some part of their business as yours, wherein you help them in their day-to-day activities. That's the operate side of things. So I think, yeah, probably they all have their expertise in some areas where they are implementing all these kinds of projects.
So apart from projects, how frequently one management consultant would also be involving in business development or getting new clients, or will that be your job role?
It's not explicitly mentioned, but is also an expectation that as you grow in the firm and as you adopt more to how it works, as you become more deeper into it,
up in the ladder.
Exactly, as you go up the ladder, it's basically a way of telling them that the firm is you are the firm. Business ka firm is your firm's business is your business. So which is why they also expect you to participate in proposals and making a lot of point of views that they can share with the outside world. So that way you are somewhere or the other involved in getting more business for Deloitte, which is a good thing because you get to know the probably the pre-performance part, wherein how did this project land up to Deloitte. Yeah. So that is a good exposure.
What was the struggle went through getting
exactly SC? What did we think when we saw this project? What are we currently doing? So these are some things you can.
Okay. So when you say point of views, so generally these days we happen to see so much of GenAI, technology, all this, right? So do you really think management consultants should get an edge over all these technologies such that they are very well equipped, or you would say like, no, not much?
No. I totally agree that, of course, with AI in general coming in and becoming the hype of the moment, it's very important for us to upskill in such a manner that we need to upskill in such a way that it's not easily replaceable by something like GenAI. And there is a long way before we reach that, but it's not necessary that we might not reach there because GenAI is very powerful given the amount of data that it is looking at and
all the
LLMs, their processing powers, everything. But there's still a human touch needed because my personal experience with GenAI, there's still a long way before we can start trusting what GenAI gives us. But to be able to beat GenAI when it reaches that stage, we definitely need to upskill in areas, and especially in areas which are more like decision making, wherein GenAI can provide you the concrete insights, but to be able to implement those or to
and
be
make it a story.
exactly. So that's probably where we need to upskill ourselves more.
Okay. So, do you wish to continue in this profession of management consulting domain?
Personally, not really, because given the nature of the profession, it gives you a very good exposure of a lot of kinds of areas, things, different industries. But personally, probably 5 years down the line, I would like to just restrict myself to that one area which I'm very interested in and probably go deeper in that.
Okay. So, like, a straight out of an MBA would be a consultant.
Mhm.
So, the hierarchy will be like senior manager, and then
Yeah.
the MD or partner.
Right.
So, what's like, assume, have you seen any successful stories that, okay, engaged MD, or so, what's the average age that a straight out of an MBA joins as a
Mhm.
consultant would reach a senior manager, like 3 levels above?
You mean like how many
How
years
many
would
years?
it
Yeah.
take? Would say 10 to 12 years.
Okay.
And
That would be an
I
average
think that would
optimistic.
be average, or let's take max 15 would be the average.
Okay.
That much is required after your MBA.
Okay. So, what was that biggest advantage that you see in management consulting profile?
Like I mentioned earlier, the exposure you get to different kind of industries, different kind of projects. Like each project will be different, although it's similar, but will be very different for different
So the
clients.
problem statement would be different. The way you deal with that
Exactly.
challenge.
The data available to you will be very different. The processes for one client would be very different from the other. So maybe at an umbrella level, the two projects might sound similar, but they'll be completely different. So it's not like you have one set template that these kinds of projects are done this way. So if you're trying to follow that, then that might not be the best way of doing it.
Okay. So, like we all know that compensation is one core thing of your life. So, what would be the salary range for management consulting profiles right out of an MBA?
So Deloitte does this thing. I'm pretty sure a lot of
All
the
the Big
other
Four
consulting
yeah.
firms would also be doing it. That based on your work experience before MBA, they would probably provide a higher package to you based on what your experience is and whether it's relevant to whatever Deloitte is doing. So in on an average, it's between let's say 16 to 25
Okay.
at start.
So, like you did your undergrad, you did certain amount of work ex, then you did postgrad, and you ended into management
Yeah.
consultant. But do you think there are two other ways? Like one, fresh out of an undergrad MBA and management consultant, or more work ex between undergrad and postgrad, then landing up into management consultant. Which one is, I won't say yes or no, but which is most preferred according to you and your peers?
I think there's a sweet spot between both. There should be, I think, up till 2 years of experience before MBA is like your sweet spot.
Okay.
Beyond that, what people think is it'll be a little difficult to mold you into a different.
Because you have already learned so much.
Exactly, you would have your
Unlearning
own
would be-
ways. Exactly, so unlearning, very rightly said, might be very difficult after that. And probably as a fresher, it might again be a little difficult because you would have no experience to corporate.
Okay.
And fresh out of MBA, expectations from you would be higher. So that's why I think the sweet spot lies between 1 to 2 years.
Okay. So, like generally, every profession has certain amount of disadvantages.
Yeah.
So, what are those for management consultants? Like, is it like more work hours, no travel, or
Yeah. So consulting does have a lot of travel, but if you're in Deloitte USI, then your traveling will be a little limited.
to office?
But yeah, and to client locations also because they operate out of US. So I think that is one area that I mean could work as an advantage or disadvantage based on personal preference. And I think there are a lot of I mean working hours is another one big disadvantage because you are working from home firstly. So you are not able to fully detach from it. There's something or the other that keeps lingering around, and
All the time you remember to the teams
exactly. And I think the other thing is like there are a lot of continuous calls because there are a lot of stakeholders involved. I wouldn't say, I mean, I wouldn't blame the working hours per se, but since there are a lot of stakeholders involved, you need all of their inputs. You would have multiple calls with them, which will have to happen
across different time zones.
Exactly. So that's one other disadvantage.
So, if someone who is not into management consulting, someone belongs to a core industry, if at all they wants to come into management consulting and they're not happy with their existing sector,
okay.
So, what are the prerequisites? Like, assume if someone wants to come into healthcare who has been into supply chain, so do you think that is possible? First question. Second, if it is possible, like how well they should be unlearning their previous knowledge?
Okay. Yeah, I think it is possible. It's definitely possible, but it'll definitely require a significant amount of unlearning and upskilling at the same time. Because you would be more, let's say for the same example of supply chain and healthcare, you would think mostly from the operation side of view, wherein how the supply chain of this particular industry works. Whereas to move into consulting, and especially in an area where they're not focusing on supply chain, then you will probably find it a little difficult to just turn around very quickly. So, but of course, like you will have to put in some extra hours, you will have to put in the extra efforts and just upskill yourself, and I think then it should be fine, should not be such a problem. Because at one point of time, it's also the ability to be able to turn
Turn
around
into the existing things
exactly
of the sector.
yeah. So your experience will, like, your experience tells how much in depth you are already aware of your existing industry, so it also reflects on your ability to be able to understand the other ones.
So, okay, what would be your last advice or guidance for all the management consulting aspirants out there?
Take strategy subjects in your MBA.
Okay.
And definitely listen, like there are a lot of things that you will learn in your MBA with respect to strategy, which may not, I mean, it won't be a complete mirroring that you will be doing in your job, but there are definitely a lot of takeaways that you will realize that, oh, this is something I've learned, oh, this is something I can use here. So yeah, just
You
probably
will feel those
focusing there.
nostalgic feelings of MBA,
Yeah, exactly.
even
So
though it might be not the sweetest
it
memory.
won't be a one-to-one comparison, but somewhere you'll
Correlate.
that, yeah, this is something that we learned, or this is something I should have been able to understand, that sort of a thing.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Meera, for this valuable
Thank
discussion.
you.